Hello, I'm Cynthia Ng and this is AWANI Review. Today's episode is a very special one because I think it's the first time on this show that we actually have food on the table. And joining me today to talk more about what's in front of us is Jack Yap, co-founder of Phuture, which is a company that makes plant-based chicken, which is what's on the table. More about that later in a bit, and joining me as well is Annabelle Co-Martinent, Chief Marketing Officer of Phuture. Thank you both for, first of all, inviting me here. My first introduction to plant-based food, I've tried the chicken, which looks a bit like nugget. It looks like chicken, it tastes like chicken, but it's not chicken. So if you can walk us through, maybe Annabelle can help me out here. You know, people always confuse about vegan diets, vegetarian diet, and then you have plant-based meat. What's the difference here?
Okay, so thanks for having us on your show. And I think that, you know, being Asians, we all kind of understand vegetarian, veganism sort of because of our culture, maybe some people because of their religion. But basically, vegetarians will take anything that is non-meat. Dairy is, you know, sort of tolerated, and maybe a couple of eggs and cheese on the side. But vegans are very, very strict about not taking anything from animals, even, you know, maybe honey and milk, for example. So plant-based meat is just another option, I think, for the market. And really, if you imagine the capability of what it can do, it's not meant to just feed these two diets, which is vegan, vegetarian. I think the more interesting discussion is really, can plant-based meat turn meat eaters into occasional vegetarians, for example? I think that is where the opportunity is, that is where the problem that we're trying to solve. It's to solve world hunger, you know, and sustainability, which we both know that anything and anytime it could happen. So COVID kind of taught us all that any crisis is, you know, it's a reality, and I think the net zero discussion is becoming more and more relevant.
Food security is a big, big topic right now. When you started the company in 2018 with two of your co-founders, was there a problem that you were trying to solve, or did you see there was just a big opportunity in the market?
Well, I was a restaurateur, so at my peak I had around 8 restaurants, managing more than 100 employees by myself. But there was a friend of mine trying to convince me to turn. I was selling meat actually. So he was convincing me to not selling meat anymore, and asked me to, instead of looking at meat, can we venture into like plant-based food kind of thing. But you know, that was like 5 to 6 years ago, and plant-based meat wasn't hyped yet, right, at that time. And there was only the vegetarianism concept, which is closely associated with religions, and people think that vegetarian food is not tasty, right? It's not delicious, and maybe healthy, but not delicious, right?
How did your friend convince you to start this?
There were many like conversations going on, like animal cruelty, environmental sustainability, right? All these global issues that's ongoing right now. I had my seed planted when I was 7 years old. I love hanging around my grandma's house. She had a small little farms that raises chickens, ducks, cows, and some rabbits, right? I love chasing around the chickens, and but at that time actually I was 7 years old, so I loved eating KFC as well. I didn't know that KFC was actually coming from the chickens. So there was one time that my mom actually brought back a bucket of KFCs. Then out of curiosity, I'm not sure why, I asked her that, "Mom, where does this come from actually?" So she actually pointed to the chickens, which I considered my childhood friends, right? Then I stunted. I didn't know how to react. Then all of a sudden, I exploded. I tears, cries, and then I shouted and I puked everything I just eaten. So that was really a traumatic experience.
I definitely see the value here. Of course, you know, you talk about animal cruelty, and it's more environmentally friendly. And I think this leads to a discussion about convincing people, you know, to try it, right? So Annabelle, that's your job, I know, to convince people that, hey, this is not only nutritious, it is also tasty.
Tasty
and
is the most
affordable.
Important. Yes.
So walk us through maybe some of the hurdles you think you might face when it comes to convincing, especially Asian consumers who are relatively new to this plant-based concept.
Okay, so I think whenever there's something new in the market, whether it's technology or food, people have this tendency to question because they don't understand. And a little bit about my background. So 8 years ago when I started a cold pressed juice company selling green juices, it was an uphill battle to even get a Malay, let's say, mom to try the green juice. And they said, I'm scared, it's green. And that is an example of 8 years ago, cold press wasn't even a word, and today you walk around the streets, even I think regular people know what it is. So whenever there's something new, it's an uphill battle of education. But just like every other marketing, you just need the right product at the right price with the right places to distribute and promote it the right way. So promote is not really just cutting costs or selling it at a discount. It's really this social aspect, which is social media. Where can I see the product? So I think that just like in the old days when I know you guys are young, but I was born in the era of no technology, meaning it was just the old regular phone. And I think that we all questioned a lot of things about, let's say, the statement of Bill Gates saying a computer in every home. It felt impossible because the costs were so high. Yeah. So I think when the time came that computers were more affordable and I was at university and I think you guys were already born at the era of the internet, this powers a lot of possibilities. And I think that with the right education and the power of social media, we will be able to kind of speed up the understanding of plant-based. So if not just COVID is one, it will speed up the need for health because we all realize what can happen. Second, sustainability. It's a global issue right now. And of course, third, I think it's the awakening of every, not just young people, but everyone who have access to the internet. I may not have grown up in a farm or gone to a farm like Jack, but watching Netflix alone awakened the fact that, okay, people need to eat healthier. What goes on behind the production of fast food, for example. These are all, documentaries about how cruel they are in terms of growing mass-produced type of animal farming like chicken and whatever other form of farming out there. So these are realities, and you will see younger and younger generation asking questions. Maybe we didn't ask enough when we didn't know because we watched TV.
That was the only option that we had.
And those were the only truths that we knew. But today's time, you've got films that go behind the scenes of capturing McDonald's, how they created the nuggets, or the slaughterhouses of killing beef, for example, killing cows. The way that it's happening right now with all the climate change, it will speed up. It will speed up the adoption of plant-based.
Well, speaking of McDonald's had also ventured into plant-based meat using the plant-based, is it beef or chicken from Beyond Meat. So I do see that plant-based meat could be a sustainable answer to environmental problems. However, some people may have doubts as to whether it provides the same kind of nutrition as an actual chicken. I'm not sure who's best to answer this. Maybe Jack.
Yes.
You've looked into R&D and just coming up with all this kind of products. Can you talk to us about the dietary nutrients or protein that it can offer? Is it similar to chicken?
Well, in terms of the level of protein, we are in the same range, but we want to do beyond chicken, right? Okay. So as for example, like high fiber chickens, like the name itself, high fiber. So it contains 13 grams of fiber per serving, whereas in chickens it contains 0 fiber per serving. So going back to your previous questions, like what we believe in consumer-centric. So basically, whenever there's a need, we will try to offer, like for example, we have Western food range, we have products that can go into ready-to-eat meals. So basically, we want to have a very deep and wide penetrations to offering different kind of needs with different products, right? So why we are offering 13 grams of fiber per serving to every chicken lovers, because there's a huge fiber gap that we are facing right now, not only in Malaysia, and that's closely linked to a lot of problems like obesity,
diabetes,
type 2 coronary heart diseases.
So let me start with that. Protein level is the same as chicken.
Yes, about
13%.
10 to 13 gram, depends on the products, but that is already similar to chickens.
And that's definitely more fiber.
Oh, definitely. So,
Very high.
so for example, if you ate this whole burger, you have an equivalent fiber of 5 bananas, 6 apples, or maybe 65 strawberries.
So what are they made of?
Plant fibers. So plant fibers like wheat fiber, oat fiber, apple fibers, and bamboo fibers. Yep.
Okay, very interesting. And I've tasted this, so I can vouch to say that it does taste like chicken. It is delicious. Jack, can I just go back to you for a bit? When you started the business, I found it to be quite interesting that as a Malaysian company, the first place that you took your product to was Hong Kong.
Yep.
Why was that? Was it lack of awareness in this part of markets, or what was the decision behind that?
I bring it back to like 4 years ago. So there's no plant-based meat at all in Asia. Now you heard about it because it's everywhere. But 4 years ago, it's nothing. So the only thing I got is an article that I happened to read. It's an article about Beyond Meat. A very simple article, a very simple scientific review, and a short interview. That article actually inspired me to be in this industry. Although that it wasn't hype, but it's always I was constantly finding solutions to wanting to promote plant-based to a general mass market eaters, because that's the challenge I faced earlier.
So why Hong Kong then?
Huh?
Because now, okay, you're right now in you have
Because-
presence in Singapore,
yeah.
Thailand, Hong Kong, Macau,
So
and
I
Malaysia.
started out by recruiting some so-called very experienced food scientists in Malaysia. But at that time, there's no technological support, no understanding, no resources at all. I even call up to all the local and regional global food companies, ask them about, hey, do you know like what is plant-based meat? Do you have any support understanding that you can share? No, they only understand about vegetarian mock meat. But other than that, there's nothing. So I realized that I have to go beyond Malaysia to find the right resources and support.
No, the reason why I wanted to ask you about that, because I just wanted to get some of the lessons learned, starting out in Hong Kong.
Yep.
It's a fairly mature market, of course, but now you're in 4-5 different markets: Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, Macau, Malaysia, with plans to expand to Indonesia and Thailand. And these are very different countries, although we are Philippines. And then looking at cultural differences, and also the demographic is a bit different. So
Cuisine as well.
The cuisine as
Yes.
well. So maybe I can get to Annabelle on this. Just expansion. This looks like a really. You guys are going global, well,
Yes.
if not
Well,
regional.
yeah, regional,
for
yeah.
now.
Regional,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's such an amazing journey, right? 2018, and now that we're seeing the interest in plant-based meat. So, what's the strategy there?
So firstly, I think when we look at the studies, it's showing that Asia Pacific will grow about 200% in terms of plant-based as a market. And both, I think Malaysia and Indonesia are growing double digits in terms of growth for plant-based. And Indonesia and Philippines being really huge populations is very interesting, and I'm from the Philippines, and I think that chicken is a universal meat that we all kind of understand. And so having plant-based replace that meat is going to be quite interesting, especially if you localize to the flavor that they recognize. And I think the trick of plant-based is very simple. You make it delicious, you distribute it at the right places with the right affordable price. And I think that when it's recognizable, delicious, I don't think that there will be much more issues in terms of acceptance. Unlike, I guess, 3 years ago, a lot of plant-based have come out, but many people who were curious, they wanted to try, but when they saw the prices, they were like,
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to get to the price. So the perception is that plant-based diet is
Currently,
more expensive.
yes,
Is
currently,
that true?
but today we're already at CU at 8 ringgit 99, that's about $2. One portion, really, I would say it's more than enough for us ladies. I don't know, maybe for men it's not enough, but one portion already at 8.99, that is close to chicken prices already. So the reality is the affordability is already happening, but it's gonna get even better because of a few factors. One, technology gets better, investments will keep coming in, and third, sustainability issues will keep going up. So once sustainability kicks in, the real meat starts to get more expensive. plant-based starts to go down in terms of pricing and availability, affordability. So there will be a tipping point where, just like Bill Gates said, a computer in every home, there will be plant-based meat in every fridge.
That's the dream.
Yes, that's a dream.
That's Jack's dream.
Yes.
And yours.
We originally, our company is planning to match chicken price within 2 years of time. And we feel
I think
that
right now
like
you're
with
close.
recent events happening, so I
In
think
Malaysia and Singapore.
I think in terms it's going to be accelerated.
And you've got impressive roster of restaurants and retail outlets to carry your product. You have Kyochon, which is a very well-loved chicken chain. Grand Hyatt Hotel, you mentioned convenience store chain, CU Malaysia. Do you see a particular demographic which are more interested in plant-based food, and who are you targeting?
I think that the younger generation are definitely attuned to plant-based because they already know the issues and they want to live long, right? They want to preserve the world for them. And whenever you touch the younger generation, you get to start to educate the older generation because they affect, you know, the older people. And that's the easiest way backdoor to every old generation, because if my child comes to me and says, Mom, I want to eat plant-based meat, even if I'm a heavy meat eater, okay, you know, let me look into it. But then even if you flashed me a million commercials about plant-based meat, maybe my realization won't come until, you know, my kid comes. So I think that for plant-based meat, it's going to be quite, I think it's going to be quite interesting in the next few years. I find that the younger generation are not only attuned, they are asking a lot of questions. Can you imagine my 12-year-old daughter asked me about skincare and said, Mom, can you not buy that because it's tested on animals? So that animal recognition of suffering is something that they are more attuned. At 12, I never asked about these kind of things because the internet was not available, because TV only showed me what TV wanted to show. But today they Google up everything and they will challenge us and ask, why are we using this? Why are we eating this? Why shouldn't we change and get the replacement when the replacement is equally good, if not better?
I think it's just trying to get a word out there that is equally good or even better. Yeah, Jack.
Better chicken, yeah. So from a business point of view, I think we must align our expectations with our business partners, right? How do we position it as a profitable, growing business segment, right? That would build the confidence of our business partners to continue carry this range of products, and not short term, but at a longer term. I think how would we convince them? I think first of all, we need to really look at it as like it's a new industry. Like just like meat industry 20 years ago, it's also a new industry that has already been marketed and commercialized until what it is today. But it's so saturated and matured. So definitely for every business owners, we need a growing segment with a lot of potential, and plant-based meat is posing that kind of potential.
I definitely see the potential. I see the virtue behind it. But I mean, if I were to take a look at some of the examples, say in the West, these virtues haven't really translated into financial statements. I mean, if you look at, we talked about meat substitute company Beyond Meat, which is they're struggling to make profit because of slowing sales and elevated costs. Just want to get your thoughts about what is holding the market back. And then we look at experiences.
I think there's no holding. It's just that there are more players coming into the regions. And in fact, you're seeing growing sales, right? Just that it's not as fast as what it was expected earlier. But Beyond Meat has already grown into a huge size, right? And there are so many unexplored, undiscovered markets yet. For example, ours in Southeast Asia, we are seeing very fast growth. Like by the end of this year, we actually need to double our capacity just to meet our demands. So we are seeing surges in demand right now. So I think most importantly is knowing your customers. I think that is the right thing, like giving what they need. So understanding the supply and also understanding the demand side, and make ourselves as relevant as possible.
On that note, speaking about that, I want to get your thoughts about expansion plans. Yep. Yes, geographical expansion, Philippines and Indonesia.
Yep.
Correct. And what about product? Are you planning to expand your product range, or are you just going to be focusing on chicken, right?
Well, our major focus is still on the chickens, not only in terms of chicken is one of the most consumed protein in Southeast Asia. Like in Malaysia alone, it's 63 kg per capita. So it's basically the highest in the world. And we have the intention to explore into other ranges, but we have a very strong vision in our mind that we want to close the fiber gap right now using the chickens. So with 13 gram serving 13 gram of fiber per serving, we're actually closing the gap already. We have with the 50% gap of fiber.
These are all very good numbers I'm hearing, and I'm very interested to explore this a bit further. But I think at the end of the day, it's about when you want to introduce something new,
Yep.
it's about building that trust, confidence, right?
Yes, that's right. And back to your question about McDonald's, Beyond Meat, and all these things. Do you remember the day when Newsweek published something about the internet and that it's a scam, that it's not going to work, or the dot-com boom? But here we are, living in the time of the internet. So a lot of misunderstanding happening back then, and exactly what plant-based it was experiencing, I think, in the last 3 years. But then fast forward 20 years after, we cannot live without, like if the Wi-Fi is down at home, I'm going crazy. So this is exactly what's going to happen to plant-based. A new industry, completely new. For example, for even FMCGs, this is a whole new line that they're getting into. So it's quite wonderful to be starting a business in the time of the internet, because both FMCGs and small businesses or startups have equal chance of getting a really good product out there.
How do you get buy-in from businesses who are maybe not familiar with the product? Yes, you've got some really great outlets partnering with Phuture, but what's next?
Right now, I think in terms of channels, for example, there is a channel in terms of partnerships with restaurants. It's very important because Malaysians love to dine out, and that's one way you can get to them. Second is business to business with, let's say, commissaries, hotels, or people who produce food for other people. So that's another B2B kind of solution. Then the B2C, which is very much consumers, you've got all these products at the supermarkets, which is readily available in very small packets where they can kind of go home and experiment on their own with their children. And I think that more and more outlets, and more, if we get to do not only thousands, but hundreds of thousands, if not millions later on, it will eventually start to kind of touch everyone in terms of, oh, I've tried plant-based chicken. Today, maybe in a room full of 10 people, 2 or 3 would say, yeah, I tried it. But in not so distant future, I think 10 out of 10 will eventually have tried plant-based.
Like we always say, we want to be in the land, in the air, in the sea, right? So
we're working towards that.
Yeah. So we
start with chicken, and then the rest in the pipeline.
Yes. What makes this possible is technology, right? It's the technology-enabled understanding of food, right? Before this, when we talk about food, basically just cook it. You plug, you cook, right? So
me.
yeah. So, but I think in the future, what we have right now is we have more and more or better understanding about like what makes food better, right? So I'm saying like not only in terms of like what you could see from your bare eyes, but really understanding from a molecular point of view, right? So for example, like if you ask me like how do we create a taste that replicates chicken taste, right? Maybe I give you a layman explanations. Basically, it's like if we look from a molecular point of view, we understand the taste reactions we could create a taste reaction chart when you eat the chickens. So by putting different source of plants together, by undergoing some kind of thermal reactions, then we hope to plot a curve, a chart that could replicate the taste reaction of the original chickens. As simple as that. Not simple to describe, but when it comes to that, requires a lot of molecular understanding. It's not that because you add a lot of chemical additive into it. It's not something like that.
Yeah. How much science is put into creating this product? How long did it take for you to come up with a product that tastes exactly like chicken and is as nutritious as well?
Yeah. So I was saying that it requires molecular understanding of the food, of every reactions that is happening on your tongue. So as detailed as that.
How long did it take for you to come up with the product?
Oh,
when we first started in 2018, and
so it takes about 1 to 2 years. Yeah.
for R&D.
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. So what's next then? How do you foresee the growth of Phuture in the next couple of years? Just what keeps you excited?
By the end of this year, we are just by Malaysia itself. We hope that we will be in more than 1,000 locations.
1,000?
Yes. And of course, like we shared earlier, we want to expand beyond Malaysia. So we want to enter Indonesia and Philippines. We have huge expansion plan in there as well. We want to be in the land, the air, and the sea. We want to make it as accessible as possible, as affordable as possible. We want to match the chicken price within 2 years of time. So there are a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Scaling.
Until the day that plant-based is just like every other meat out there, right? Let me order a plant-based burger.
Just final question to you, Annabelle. I know you've had such great experience and wealth of knowledge in running health-based company and seeing the potential that you're seeing right now. What do you hope to achieve?
Well, I hope to achieve the same thing that every other new technology achieved, right? Like educating the market, putting the right product out there at the right price, and make it as accessible to everybody as possible until it becomes a norm, until we sit together and
we don't think that it's
and we
plant-based.
don't even think. We just say, look, give me a plant-based nasi lemak or a plant-based burger. So until that becomes a norm, until, like I said, a plant-based packet in every home, that will be the day that you wake up and say, look, it's not even an educational kind of journey anymore. It's just scale, technology, what other forms and shapes do we need to do to make it easier, faster, and better for you to consume.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Annabelle and Jack, for just talking to us about plant-based meat, in this case, plant-based chicken. Fairly new for all of us, so it's great to have you just to talk to us about what's happening now and what's in store.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. And well, right now, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm just going to dig in. So you have been tuning in to AWANI Review, and it's also just a quick note to Hungry Tape, who's hosting us today, for allowing us to have this beautiful space to have this discussion. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in the next episode.